Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our September 5, 2019 City Council meeting. Before we get started, we will commence with our traditional moment of silent reflection. Thank you very much. Dennis, would you be so kind as to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're extra mindful this evening of the folks. Many of us have friends, family in the Carolinas with Dorian bearing down, and those who have been impacted in the Bahamas and other places are all in our best thoughts, wishes, prayers. The only person who has signed up to speak is Ms. Huddleston from Thurman Avenue.
Yes.
How can we help you?
Well, you're all aware that we have a severe drug problem here, but we need to get something going and do something about this. Instead of just saying, yeah, we got the drug problem, they're there, and they broke into my house, we need to do something for this. And stuff, maybe go back to neighborhood watch programs and things like that. Like when I lived in Baltimore years ago, and they had drugs and prostitutes, they would run the people out of the neighborhood by stopping their business. You know, they would go out different neighborhoods and they would say, you sure you want to go in here because I'm taking your picture and stuff. And their people just kept moving away, and that moved them on out of one neighborhood, maybe into another, but they just kept doing this. We aren't doing anything. I feel we aren't doing anything. Thurman Avenue and Cleveland Avenue are so bad, I wouldn't even let her walk down the street by herself. I mean, it is bad. The breaking and entering and the stealing is going on. I mean, it's really bad. We call the police a lot of times, and they won't even come over to look. I know they can't get bust into somebody's house right there and this and that and the other. But, you know, things, when you see an ongoing influx of people in a house every day, 50 people and more, all the bicycles, all the backpacks, it doesn't leave much to the imagination.
What have the police told you when you called them and they showed up?
I'm sorry?
What have the police talked to you about it?
They haven't talked to me, they haven't come to me, but I go to them. Anytime I see them out, and I'll tell them about my street that I live on, the neighbor right next to my grandson, and stuff, because he lives in 21, I live in 21 and a half. I mean, we need presence over there. We need the police over there, even if they're not doing something, up and down the streets and stuff. They told me about where there was in the alley where there was like a helmet that they was meeting to exchange drugs. The police wouldn't come out, so I went over and got the helmet and throwed it. And I said, well, that camp's gone, you know, for right now and stuff. But we need a plan, not just say, oh, we got the drug problem. Yeah, we all know this. I don't know if you've been over on Cleveland Avenue lately, or you've been over on Thurman. It's hell over there and stuff.
I would tell you that we have, in the past year, partnered to establish a multi-county city drug task force.
Okay.
And there is, each of the participating agencies have committed a full-time officer to the task force. And a lot of the time, it takes a little time to, and I don't want to divulge all the strategy of the task force, but these undercover operations, oftentimes, there will be all of a sudden 25 or 30 people indicted relative to the drug issues.
Yeah.
The other thing that we did a year or so ago, and there was a lot of controversy surrounding it, was we adopted a drug house ordinance. City Attorney Tom O'Neill could tell us more about that, but in essence, if there's a problematic repetitive property, the police have the opportunity to go to our municipal court and to put the landlord on notice about tenants.
I think that might do it really good. really well there and stuff. You know, is if you touch their money, if you fool with their money, then that might get their attention. You know, because I know the law is real strict about a meth house and this and that. My son even comes up here. He's a state trooper in Braxton County, and he lives in Upshur County, and he'll come down, and like the house right next door, I mean, it's real evident. He stands in the yard, has his car there, he's in his uniform, and they all come out on the porch and stare at him. So he stares back at him, you know. But, I mean, it's going to take everybody to get involved with this.
I would invite you to come back. I hate to do this tonight, but Matt Gregory is our police chief, and he speaks at the third Thursday meeting of each month.
Okay.
And maybe in advance of that, we could sit down with Chief Gregory and make more specific these issues that you're experiencing over there. We have stepped up patrols. We are part of a drug task force. We have written a couple of letters to repetitive problematic properties. And if you identify those for us, we'll
I can definitely identify some.
Can I just ask one question? Can you give any sort of timeline as to when it's become what's brought? Well, no, I'm not talking about like during the day. Like I'm talking about over the course of time. Can you identify? You're obviously have been motivated to come here this evening. So at this point, it's bad from your surmise. But prior to this, can you give like a timeline as to how it's escalated to get you to this point?
Well, we moved back here 6 years ago from Fairmont into the same house. I've owned the property for years. And when these people like moved in right next door to us, it was like, just like all of a sudden here was all these people coming every day, every night. I mean, 4 o'clock in the morning and stuff, you know. Sometimes my driveway is blocked to where I can't get out because somebody has passed out, you know, in the driveway, because it's like a circle driveway that comes around. And so I had to call the police over and over, please come and remove this car so I can get out of my driveway. The guy got out and left or passed out or something in it. It was a mess and stuff. And my fear is meth. I mean, it really is. And right next to my grandson, who lives in 21 Thurman, who is handicapped, and he has staff around the clock and stuff, live right next door. And if that is a meth house and it blows, he's gone. And stuff, you know, the properties over there are pretty close and stuff. His mom and sister live over here on the island too.
They're 5.5.
Yeah, and they have the up and down the alley all night long. People trying to break into their garage and stuff. I mean, you almost have to set up to protect your property. I'm putting cameras up outside. I know my church has got cameras up there on Thurman Avenue. I had some cameras in the house, but I'm putting more outside because it's just nonstop. You don't get any peace from it. So I would say over the past 6 years, the past 3 years has like really escalated. And they've sort of went to bicycles in the past 3 years. And I mean, if you drove down and looked at that place that I'm talking about, you would think they were selling bicycles. And usually about 9 o'clock of the night, they're all lining up out there, like 16 of them, with their backpacks. Now, I think I know what's in the backpacks, you know, and so because they all have them and stuff, but that's what you get about 9 o'clock at night. And then, you know, like a lot of people come all night long though. She lives next door to my grandson. She sees it all night long and she counted and stuff. And his mom is like over here on the street. It's just horrible to come down the island, you know, it's just horrible. It used to be a nice place to live. And they don't take care of the property, so it puts my property values down, you know, plus dealing with all this and stuff, and I can't get anybody to help.
Well, we'll get the right folks' attention if
I'm
the
glad they
attention.
come back. I mean, it don't bother me to complain, you know.
That's the
I
way.
amen to that one.
I think I'm the mayor of Thurman, okay?
That's right.
We only got one mayor.
Well,
But Mayor, can I say something real quick?
Sure, Mary.
I was contacted today in person from someone that lives over that area and works over in that area. And we sat down in my patio and talked about it, okay? And that was after I left here this afternoon. So there is some issues, and
Well,
I'm not gonna share it here, but I'll share it with the mayor and with also the chief of police.
Well, we appreciate you coming because
Yes.
this is, I mean, coming forth is how we hear about it.
Right.
Social media is not how we hear about it.
That's
Coming
what I
forth
tell
is how we
everybody.
hear about it.
If you don't want to go do something about it, stop complaining about it. You know, because everybody's like, oh, these drug addicts, blah, blah, blah. Well, do something about it, you know? And I know Doug's got the house up here, you know, the Lazarus house, which is wonderful, because those are the people who says, I want to give this stuff up, you know? But these other ones, they're not giving nothing up, you know? And they steal everything.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, everything. My pastor's wife had her sticker stole off of her license plate because they could sell that for $10 or something, you know, to somebody else, and that would buy them some kind of drug and stuff.
there's
She was
bicycles
parked over
missing
to
too.
church, and she seen this guy come out around her car, and when he left, and we live right down the street from the church, she came there, and she said, oh my gosh, I seen this guy, I wonder what he was doing about my car and stuff, and we looked at her tag, and the sticker was moved off of it.
we will find a time in advance of the next city council meeting that
Okay.
will work with your schedule. And do we have your telephone number? We can get that, maybe
Yeah.
Amby can
No, I
get
give
that
it
from
to
you
you.
before you leave this evening. And then you can bring other folks
I
too.
have all these people calling me.
You can, you know, if you have a group of folks that want to be heard, I would just like to say that we want to be attentive to these problems. I don't want to publicly divulge strategy that could be occurring as we speak relative to our police
Well,
operations.
please let me know if there's
Yes,
anything
ma'am.
I can do, because
And-
I'm like, well, I'm done with this.
And I think it takes a lot of courage to come to
I
a
do
body
too.
such as ours and speak about a problem. So
I counted 153 people coming in, or 53 people coming in and out an hour.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they just.
They're not playing ping pong, are they?
And I've never seen somebody have that many.
Yeah, that's
Friends
loved,
in
that
one
loved,
day.
that is loved that much.
That's just
Nobody
in
is
an
loved
hour.
that much, you know? I don't care.
We will address it, and we'll have a meeting before the next meeting.
Okay, and you'll call me?
Yes, ma'am.
It takes guts to come in here and say what you said, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
What's your first name, Ms. Ellison?
Dave, Dave.
I have a question concerning this in a way. They have, that address has bikes with,
Bicycles with engines on them,
are they legal to run those on the main street
without a helmet.
and
They
licensed?
have a motor on bicycles.
If it's under 50 cc's,
Do what?
if it's under 50 cc's, they can ride.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a typical
But
restriction.
don't they still have to obey the laws and the road stop signs? Well, they run the
I
one.
mean, I'm not caught, but I just know because one of our members has one of those.
We'll propose that to Chief Gregory.
Like I said, they're getting ahead of us because they're gonna put motors on bicycles. Okay? It's
It's not funny, but
I get it.
It isn't.
And we call them over there, we all call them the backpack mafia
Yeah.
because that's all they
Come over and
do.
visit us, young lady, come over and visit us.
No, I'm sorry.
We will show you. Yeah.
I've said for years, I mentioned a while back, for years, I said, you know, if the police, and then evidently they're not allowed to do it, to just randomly start checking backpacks with people walking down the streets.
They're not.
I know they're gonna catch it, but they're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But it's all over town because I see it every day.
And they have a lot of the little gas tanks in their
Propane tanks.
Mm-hmm.
propane
Yeah.
tanks. And so I guess that sort of goes along with the cooking, you know, and then I worry about my grandson's house going up and us going up and, you know, and stuff. And they have a little building out back, you know, and stuff. It's real scary to live there.
Let's get together soon.
Okay,
We'll call you here in the next couple of days to arrange a meeting.
Well, we're gonna leave, so.
Oh, no, you have to stay and listen to all of it.
Get all the 12 hours of work, sorry, I gotta get home.
Thanks for coming. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Bring it to our
It's-
attention.
It's very scary here now. It really, and our little town used to be a safe little town, and it didn't bother me at all to let my kids go up and down the street and stuff. No. I have her watch her if she walks across to the church.
Yeah.
You know, because I just don't trust them.
We'll increase our efforts and
All
talk
right,
about
call
this
me,
stuff.
I'm fine.
Yes,
Okay?
ma'am.
Thank you all.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we've already met Gabriella Sager, but Gabby's going to bring us up on the latest activities with the Buckhannon Volunteer Center.
Hi, everybody. So I just wrote a statement, and if you guys have any questions, I can answer them. So it is important to ask ourselves, what do we want to see during and what do we want to see after Community and Kindness Day? How can we grow this day into something that doesn't have to be organized and cultivate it into a way of life? To answer, Community and Kindness Day should be accessible to all, emphasizing its respective beginning community. I have set 2 objectives that I believe will lead us in this direction. Objective 1, to make volunteerism more accessible to the schools and to different generations. Objective 2, maintain connections with community leaders and West Virginia Wesleyan College. With these objectives in mind, I believe it will be beneficial for Buckhannon if we expand Community and Kindness Day from a single Saturday morning to an entire week. Families, children, and seniors will not have to worry about finding time or transportation. They can give what they can. To do this, we will be corresponding with the Senior Center and schools so everyone can have their chance to contribute, and we'll end with a big service event where anyone can join. All of the Buckhannon Volunteer Center's planning will promote efficiency with the use of our website for registration and check-in, social media for spreading the hard work and devotion of Buckhannon volunteers, and allow for an accessible outlet in which volunteers of all ages can reach out and feel good about what they have done.
Thanks, Gabby. Questions? We had a meeting earlier today and got a big group that we think will be assembling on October 5th, which is the primary day. But we're going to do other activities leading into that week, including going to some of the schools and doing a proclamation. And Jerry Arnold's going to have the best bench ready for installation in Jawbone Park on Saturday, October 5. And we're going to invite the first year's worth of best honorees, we're calling them besties, to the function, to that thing in Jawbone Park. So if you want to participate, yell to City Hall and they'll patch you back to Gabby or Callie or somebody and give you information. And you want to tell them about the website too?
Yeah, so our website's Buckhannon Volunteer Center Galaxy. We're going to basically use it to check in and register with our check-in kiosk, and basically everybody can sign up and make an account. And it's not just great for this event, but also for any other volunteer opportunities. It should make it so volunteerism is more accessible to a lot more people.
What is that website again?
It's the Buckhannon Volunteer Center.
BuckHannonWV.org/volunteer.
It's available on the drop-down menu on the city.
City's website.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can get in the Galaxy Digital database.
Great.
You're a volunteer.
Questions? Thank you very much.
Welcome
Ms.
aboard.
Posner.
Yeah.
We'll see you again
Welcome.
soon. Okay, getting into department and board reports. First up is Callie Cronin-Sams, our grant writer and information coordinator.
Thank you. I've got the report in your packet, and it starts out with the Google Analytics dashboard for our website activity. A little spike there where we had the information out about the water leak repair that was out on Route 20. The water department did a nice job trying to schedule that to where it wouldn't conflict though with the high traffic times around school opening and ending. So that got out to everybody. Not everybody necessarily, but quite a few folks. We also had a reminder about the delay on waste collection because of the holiday. Mary Allball's award got a lot of views. That was another one. The American Legion baseball team did as well. And Dan Rex Road, just going through some of our Facebook posts. over the past couple of weeks. And also the Planning Commission, WDTV did a nice story on their work, and that got quite a bit of views as well. So that's pretty much it for the website. I have all the stories that we put out listed there as well, so if you want to go through individually. And then with grants, I've been working with Gabby quite a bit since we do have Community and Kindness Day coming up on October 5th to get that planned with the Volunteer Center, and also working on planning for Fall Fest coming up September 25th through the 28th. Had helped Jay with a DHHR source water protection grant application, and still waiting on a few others. I've been doing a little bit of research on some other possibilities, but nothing new to report on that yet. And then as far as events, of course, this weekend, there's both the Art 26201 event on Saturday for the Traders Alley block party, and then the free paper shredding at the Buckhannon Crossroads Recycling Center. I don't have it on my list here. I mistakenly left out, of course, next week we have Patriots Day. We'll be doing a remembrance in front of City Hall on 9/11. And then on September 13th and 14th will be Truck Fest, with the 14th also being Children's Fest, and then the 25th through the 28th being Fall Fest, and then Community and Kindness Day on October 5th. And you can see the paper shredding and the information about the Children's Festival and Truck Festival is out on the LED sign, and after paper shredding, we'll swap that out for Fall Fest.
Sounds terrific, Callie. Questions for Callie? And we should know, we hope, about the abandoned mines land grant maybe as early as October?
Well, they claimed maybe as early as September, but that wasn't the case last year, so
Yeah.
I'm not holding my breath here.
Just,
Because they said the same thing last year, and it was more like October, or maybe even getting close to November. Yeah. Yeah, and on the Safer Grant, we should hear something on that soon as well.
Sure. Thanks, Callie.
Thank you.
Jerry Arnold took the night off. He's been working hard, but he asked me to read you his report, which is in your packet. So from our Public Works Director, paving bids. The paving bid was awarded to Cooper Asphalt. The bid was based on a per unit price to provide and install various asphalt products in multiple locations in town. The South Spring Street project, we've installed the base course asphalt and have poured the street section of the crosswalk. We'll be pouring the ramps, and I think he meant remainder of the street surface over the next few days, and begin the demolition of the west sidewalk next week. We will open the street one way while installing the new west sidewalk. Water Department is installing hydrant at the airport, painting fire hydrants, repairing leaks on Route 20 South, all the way out to the high school. Sewer Department, Crew 1, they've moved to the C.J. Martin project. That's actually the Brushy Fork project. They've obtained a right-of-way from the UCDA. They've exposed sewer tap to the Housing Authority, are working on sewer and storm sewer at the theater. The plant crew is conducting routine maintenance. Streets and Parks continued work on South Spring Street, completed the North Buckhannon Riverfront Park upgrades. We were operating with a grant, and that was, we had to complete that by August 31st, and I'm told we, in fact, have performed all of our work. They're installing the sewer, helping to install the sewer plumbing in the theater, and they've poured the curbing in Traders Alley for one of the parking lots. The Waste Department is preparing specifications of the purchase of a new hook lift truck through a West Virginia DEP REAP grant. In engineering, Jay Holland has reported that he's working on the flood control project, the early warning monitoring system. That'll be the second station that's going in the river. The Atlantic Coast Pipeline Water Systems Improvement Project. Over on the other side, North Buckhannon Riverfront Park Phase, he's also reporting that the work was completed. And just so council you know, some point in the next few weeks or months, we'll be looking at amending our floodplain ordinance that was first put into place after the flood of 1985. The storm of the millennium, as it was called then. So state and federal both are making more stringent some of those requirements concerning floodplain management. So prepare yourselves for that. All right. Amby Jenkins, our Director of Finance and Administration, will tell us how we're doing in the pocketbook.
Well, at the end of August, in general fund, you had $612,932. Your CD, $84,577. Poll tax had $50,558. Municipal stabilization, $512,729. The Stalker Youth Capital Campaign is at $309,806, and that includes $27,000 in pledges. The Fire Civil Service Commission met on the 27th and directed us to start advertising for firefighters. We'll be taking those applications to October 23rd, and the reason they're doing that is that we only had 2 on the eligibility list, and they need 3 on the eligibility list. So there's no openings at this time, but they have to replenish the eligibility list. Just an FYI, the Rotary, the new Rotary just sent me information about blood screening, and the city always pays for employees to go to 1 blood screening per year. And I didn't have a chance to put this on the agenda, but they've added a new test for hepatitis C. So the next agenda, just a heads up, I'm going to put that on the agenda if council wants to pay for the employees to have that test as well. Not very many employees participate in that. Totally, all departments and boards last year, we spent $2,500 among all the departments for that. And it's proven to be, it has cost some things on our employees. So it's a good thing. That's about it. All state tax department, just an FYI, I'll probably keep doing this until January, reminding everyone that the sales tax will go into effect January 1, and that it is now on the state tax department's website. We're listed there to go into effect. They will actually send out some letters to businesses to remind them of it too, but I just want to keep that reminder out there. It's not a surprise. On your bills that you're going to be approving, the ones that are worth mentioning is we spent $1,700 to Raven Rock for routers and cruisers and surveillance equipment. They had to update that. It was for them to install those items and make them functional. J.F. Allen Limestone for Spring Street was $1,400. Bruffy Trucking for Stone was $3,700. And Cleveland Brothers Boom Lift Rental was $2,100. And that's it.
Questions for Amby? Thanks, Amby. All you do. Appreciate it. Chief Kimball,
Good evening, everybody.
how are things on the fire front?
Oh, great. Busy.
Active.
Active, very active. First thing I'd like to do, I'd like to thank the city council for the employee picnic. Enjoying myself, my son threw some football. We all had some camaraderie, had a good time, good food. Chicken was wonderful, CJ. Good time. In your packet, you got our monthly responses. We're averaging about 120 responses a month. We 102 in the month of August. If you kept track last month, actually in July, which is a downturn for fires, we had no fires in July. This month, in August, we had 10. And as the season goes on, that will take an uptick. So, of course, when you get into the heating seasons and the brush fires, and if we don't get any rain, it's going to be a rough brush fire season. So, if you look at the month of August, 44% of our activity was outside the city limits, 56% was inside. And year to date, we're standing at about 60-40, so it's about continuous at that. So, one of the 3 of the fires that we had in the month of August were suspicious. The fire marshal's office was in and investigated. One of them, an individual confessed at the scene that he was fired. He was arrested on the spot. 2 others are still under investigation and pending arrest. One of those suspicious fires, one of our firefighters was injured. Arrival, there was cars in the driveway. There's normal living stuff on the porch, so you have to assume that maybe somebody's in there. So our crews made an interior search, and in that process, he fell through the floor, got his leg stuck, twisted his leg pretty bad. He's still off work today. So in that investigation, if somebody is arrested, they will be arrested also for assault on a first responder too. So arson is proven. We last month, the mayor, Councilman Skinner, the city attorney, myself, and Travis Dean from the president of the Buckhannon Volunteer Fire Department met with Kerry Wallace and Christy Tenney in reference to the county-owned apparatus in our fire station. I thought the meeting went well, it was informative. We had came up with a plan. Apparently today that plan changed. At what point, I don't know what that happened, but I was notified Tuesday afternoon. Don't know what the change came about from, but I'll be giving you more information later on. So we'll see how this goes. But I got 2 things in strategic. I don't know if you want to move them up or you want me to wait till then.
If you wouldn't mind waiting for a few minutes. Okay. D and E won't take us very long at all, so we'll get into the strategic, probably about 5 minutes or so. Thanks, JB. Tom and Neil.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor. It's good to be with you all.
Most of your stuff's under strategic, I bet.
It is, and I'll defer that until that point, but there's one item I'd like to just bring to your all's attention by way of update. The opioid lawsuit that's currently in, that we are a party to, that is in federal district court in Ohio. There's a little bit of an update on that case. Last week, a couple of motions for partial summary judgment that have been filed by the pharmaceutical company and distributor defendants had been rejected by the judge in that case, which is a good thing for us. And in consultation, I called down to our attorney's office earlier this week to just get an update on where things stood. I was informed that one of the cases, particularly the case where the city of Huntington is a plaintiff, will be proceeding to trial sometime during the month of October. Once that matter is tried and a judgment is entered, that will probably set parameters on which settlement negotiations will proceed. So I think we may know something by the close of the year with respect to how that litigation is going to be concluded and what kind of offer will be forthcoming to all the plaintiffs, of which we're one of dozens, if not scores, of plaintiffs in that case. So Mr. Webb, who is our counsel in that matter, will be representing us in settlement negotiations. We'll be in contact with them, and hopefully by the end of the year we may know something on that. But I thought that was some news that developed in the past week or 2 on that case. I thought it would be good to update you all on that. And the rest I'll defer to the strategic portion.
Thanks, Tom. Any questions for Tom preliminarily? He'll be back up here in just a couple minutes. Correspondence and information, you got all kinds of things in your packet. There's the city PR regarding the hiring of Gabriella Sager, you heard from a little bit ago. You got the greetings to the ladies of the GOP at their reception a week or so ago. There's a letter of support that was done relative to Region 7's Central Western Environmental Infrastructure Program. There's a thank you letter to Shirley Lewis, who very kindly gifted us another $1,000 toward the Colonial Theater Restoration Project. There's the annual welcome letter to the college students. There's the cat and dog activity report that is shared with us monthly by the Upshur County Commission. There's the greeting that was given at the Buckhannon Riverfest last Saturday. There's a proclamation for Ursel and Mardell Stempel, who tomorrow will actually celebrate their 75th wedding anniversary. I told them when I went to the reception last Saturday that I would have to be married 6 more times to get that. That's a joke. There's a notice of public hearing and timeline, City of Buckhannon's 2025 comprehensive plan, and then the remarks at our employee recognition picnic last week. The consent agenda consists of 5 matters that I'll entertain a motion that we approve. These 5 matters are the approval of the minutes from our last regular meeting of August 15th. There's the approval of the building and wiring permits. There's the approval of the payment of the general fund bills. And the 3-Quarter Cafe, as part of its ABC licensure, has to file a temporary extension request for the Traders Alley block party that is this Saturday. And the Buckhannon Upshur Airport Authority has nominated, subject to council's approval, our former city engineer Brian Huffman as the new airport authority representative. We have 3 city representatives on the authority. So I would entertain a motion that we approve our consent agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Skinner and a second by Mr. Rylands. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for that question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. The motion carries. Takes us down to our strategic issues for discussion and or vote. So we'll call Tom back up. And this would be the second and final reading of ordinance number 438 pertinent to purchasing. Tom, it's yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me just find that in my binder here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The council has before it ordinance number 438, which I'll read by caption and answer any questions you may have. Ordinance number 438 of the City of Buckhannon, an ordinance providing for the expenditure of public funds for the purchase of materials, supplies, and equipment, requiring competitive bidding under certain circumstances, and authorizing the use of central purchasing services upon agreement between the City of Buckhannon and the West Virginia Department of Administration, and providing for severability and an effective date. As we discussed at your last meeting, this ordinance does not change any practice or policy of the city. It's really just a housekeeping matter to ensure that we have the full range of ability under West Virginia code.
Thank you, Tom. This is the second of 2 readings and would be effective 30 days from tonight if council acts affirmatively. It's my recommendation that we adopt this on second reading. I would entertain a motion that we do so.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mrs. Albaugh. May I have a second to her motion?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Rylands. Is there discussion on that motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for that question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Next up is the first reading on ordinance 439, which pertains to the adoption of our 2025 comprehensive plan. Tom?
Mr. Mayor, that sums it up. The ordinance, which I'll read it in a moment by caption, is a formal adoption of the recommended updated comprehensive plan as submitted by the Planning Commission. This will require a 2-reading ordinance plus a public hearing. That public hearing is scheduled for 7 o'clock on the 19th, 2 weeks from tonight. You have before you ordinance number 439 of the City of Buckhannon, an ordinance 1, making findings, 2, accepting the recommendation of the city's Planning Commission and adopting the updated comprehensive plan submitted by the Planning Commission, and 3, providing for the continuance of existing zoning, housing, and other ordinances. And I noticed there was a typo. I left the word plan out of the caption after the word comprehensive on the 3rd line. I've made a note here and I'll update the official version at the conclusion of the meeting.
Super. You heard Mr. O'Neill. This is the comprehensive plan that we've been discussing for the past year that our excellent Planning Commission did such a superb job on. Again, kudos to Curtis Wilkerson and Susan Alloy and Rich Clemens and C.J. Rylands and the whole group just did stellar work in putting this together. I would entertain a motion that we approve ordinance 439 on the first of 2 readings.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Sanders and a second by Mrs. Albaugh. Is there discussion on that motion? Hearing the need for none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries, and we'll entertain a second reading at the meeting on September 19th. Next up is the approval and anticipated execution by me, if you authorize me to do that. This is the Buckhannon Gateway West Transportation Alternatives Agreement, and it's in your packet. And you know how this stuff goes. You got to do a motion or a resolution when we make application. And then when they come back and say, yes, you've been approved, you got to approve me entering into the agreement that lets us draw that money down. We all know about the importance of the Gateway West project to our community. It's my recommendation that you authorize me to execute this agreement, but you have to give me a motion and a second to get it on the table first. I have a motion by Mrs. Bucklew and a second by Mrs. Albaugh. Is there discussion on that motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of authorizing me to sign the Gateway West Transportation Alternatives Agreement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. F4, approval of resolution number 2019-10, which is our capitalization policy. I would tell you that back in, I believe, 2006, I did this original resolution for our personal property inventory capitalization stuff, and we established a ceiling on that at $2,500. Is that right, Andy? And the request has been made that we increase that to $5,000. Is that correct, Andy?
That's correct.
And
2,500 is very low. You list a lot of property that now, that was 13 years ago, that just is, it's immense.
yeah. So this will help streamline that accounting element part of our processes. It's something the municipal league recommends. It's something AMBI also recommends. I think the state auditor's office is also recommending it. We've been notoriously low on the $2,500 amount. I would entertain a motion that we approve. This is a singular reading, resolution number 2019-10, capitalization policy. Let me see if there's a caption to even read. Resolution 2018-19 of the Council of the City of Buckhannon, formally offering its support. Oh, I'm reading the wrong one. Thanks. This is 2019-10 of the Council of the City of Buckhannon, establishing a capitalization policy for the city to further enhance the accuracy and integrity of the city's financial statements and accounting methods and practices. I would entertain a motion that we approve this. I have a motion by Mrs. Albaugh.
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Sanders. Is there any discussion on the motion? Getting ahead of myself. If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. And now for the roll call vote, and please be sure you sign this before you leave. Mr. Sanders?
Yes.
Mrs. Albaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Bucklew?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas is absent. Mr. Rylands?
Yes.
Mr. Skinner?
Yes.
And the mayor votes yes. I'm signing, and I'll pass it
Talk about
down.
this other one.
Oh, gosh. I'm opposed to it.
Yeah, right.
I just wanted to mix it up a little bit, you know? We have too many things that we agree on, and I'm against this.
You tell him how to vote, Randy?
I know, I'm working on
Too
it.
many lines sometimes to put the things in the right place. So we're down to F5 now, which is continued discussion about our part-time firefighter. JB and Tom have been working on a job description, and do you want to report on that for us, JB?
Tom went through the job description that I wrote up. He just kind of cleaned it up. He's got a little more verbiage than I do. So.
Oh, those lawyers.
So basically what he and I talked about was when hiring somebody in that part-time position, they need to meet at least the minimum requirements of our paid staff. And we came up with that, firefighter 1, hazmat ops, CPR, they have to be an EMT, just like our paid staff, because if you go down a person, you're lacking a service that you can provide to the community. And just basic, everything that's required for a firefighter in West Virginia. And it talked about training requirements, going through our mentor program. Now, if it would become somebody that was already in our organization that has been through that process, then it's a quick process.
Sure.
If it's somebody from outside comes in, then they'll have to go. I mean, we always say, I don't care if you've retired from New York City Fire Department, when you come here, you go through our mentor program. If you're that good, you'll go through it quickly. And him and I have agreed with the job description and training requirements, and now, if you all approve it, it'll be up to Tom to present this to criminal.
The only thing I noted, when Tom's initial draft, he had it as being a singular person.
Yes.
And we had talked before about it might be a pool of people.
It could be.
And the situation with Tanner this past week or two since the accident, it's just another tool in the toolbox. But if you need somebody and you're short staffing wise, you can call somebody in to work a shift or two to get you through a
It's
difficult
also
time.
nice, as we go through the summer, people are on vacation. I mean, we have a I am responding program, which is you walk in the firehouse and there's a TV. And like if I go out of town, I mark myself unavailable.
Sure.
And on holiday weekends, you go down there, and half the fire department's unavailable.
Yeah.
And if you know that's going to happen, then we could possibly get a person to come in and have a 3-person crew at that time. So yeah.
So are we approving the job description tonight to advance this, or are we?
You could, you could, and then it's going to be ready on the shelf to come off at any time that we need to actually post it.
Yeah. Now, we still have to go through home rule on this.
We do, that's right.
And the description is in the packet?
Yes.
There it is. Mr. Sanders is right on top of it. Yeah, I reviewed it. The only thing that I suggested was that we tweak it to create positions, and I think you've done that. Yeah.
version of packet reflects that change.
Super. Tom's on top of it, Bartolomew's on top of it. So it's my recommendation, council, that we approve this. This is just the first of several steps. We got a few hoops to jump through before we could actually implement this. But I think it's a terrific extra tool in the fire department's toolbox. So can I have a motion that we approve the firefighter description and that we advance it to the next phase with an ordinance? I have a motion by Mr. Rylands. May I have a second to his motion? I have a second by Mr. Sanders. Is there discussion on the motion?
I still just, it's my belief that we should, just see where we are with the SAFER grant before we go down this road, because SAFER grant will award us 3. I'm not sure what a part-timer, our staffing, minimum staffing requirement will be met with 3, or I'm sorry, with 2 if we have 3. To me, that solves a lot of our issues, and this kind of becomes a little obsolete. But that's just my thoughts on it. And we're going to hear from that pretty soon.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, this month we should hear from the SAFER grant. And there's other avenues, like this is a tool that, like during Strawberry Festival and lack of staffing or lack of volunteer staffing, it can be utilized very well.
So I guess my question is, would we be, if we're awarded the SAFER grant, and should we choose to accept the SAFER grant, would we still be looking at this as a potential?
Probably not.
Okay, that's what I wanted to.
If we were awarded the SAFER grant and had adequate staffing, you'd probably be more looking at a part-time as the accreditation continues on, not to pick on Matt, but I need a TIM, somebody to process the materials. It's hard to work a shift, running calls. Captain Baxa is our accreditation manager, but him and I are, on his shift 6 hours a day on it, and he's still running 5 to 7 calls a day and trying to manage that. It becomes tough. So it would be nice to have. Right now we have 3 service scholars, which they can do certain things, but when it gets down to the nuts and bolts, we're going to have some assistance. So
I think we should wait to see what happens with that before we make any decision moving forward, because then we could be looking at a couple of different scenarios.
Well, first, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that we're gonna get the safer grant.
No,
Second,
it's not.
If we have the opportunity, the council will still have to approve a financial model to make that work. And at this very moment, I think that's a substantial assumption. We gotta put the dollars and cents to this. I mean, it basically is calling for a model to expend some of the sales tax money that we haven't even begun to collect yet. We do not have this in this current fiscal year budget. Am I correct in saying that, Amy?
Yes, can I make one more?
Absolutely,
I'm not
sure.
a council member.
Yeah, no, it's.
Just an
it's all about the money.
observation from being here 43 years. We had an incident, we lost 3 officers in one night through one incident. If that one Friday had wiped out 2 police, 2 firemen,
Yeah.
you would have to use even with the safer grant,
Yeah.
you would have to start backing up.
I agree.
If you lose some people.
Yeah, when you know, every day I get on, and I mean, it's firehouse.com, it's, you know, where everybody goes to see what's going on across the country. You know, when you look at New York City, they'll injure 18 firefighters in one fire. You know, if we lose 3 injured firefighters, you know, and that's why we're in the process now with Jeff Harvey with our strategic plan and a COOP plan. How do we continue our operations if something like that happens?
Ask Matt Gregory about the value of Tanner Collins was brought.
There's no doubt there's value.
Yeah, we're just trying to emulate that opportunity. So is there any more discussion?
But
on this?
even so, we have to, I mean, then correct me if I'm wrong, you have to offer the time to your full-time staff members before you can offer it to
The
your,
way civil service, and I'm not a lawyer, I mean, to take time away from the full-time guys with a part-time person, from what I understand, you can't do that. And that would be something that would be more up to him than me. I'm not the lawyer, but I would hope that wouldn't become an issue.
I'm not trying to throw monkey wrenches, I'm just trying to throw out the points of conversation to make sure that we're considering everything.
I think Chief Gregory uses Mr. Collins as not to take away from anybody. He fills in when time's needed. You know, and there's times that we can, like I said, we need a third person because half the volunteer force is out of town. You know,
So why not have this in place when and if it comes about and you need it? I think it's a little more proactive.
Chief's discretion, that's the way the ordinance will be drafted.
And all things considered, why not?
Yeah, I personally don't have a problem moving on with it, but like Councilman Skinner said, if the safer grant comes and the city has the finances to take care of it, that will alleviate a lot of our issues. So,
It's my recommendation we adopt this. If there's no more discussion, I'm going to call for the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Now, psychological testing, which we adopted this a couple of years ago for police. So now we're talking about adopting a similar kind of an approach with our new incoming
the majority
probationary
of
firefighters.
fire departments in the state are doing this now. I mean, in today's world, I mean, not only do we have to check people's physical abilities, but their mental abilities. I mean, the things that fire departments are responding on nowadays, I mean, there's a lot of PTSD in the fire service, and that's everywhere. And so no matter who's testing, you want to hire the best candidate for your organization. And, you know, if somebody's, I mean, I hate to say this, somebody has PTSD from another fire department, they come here, they're going to carry it here. And, you know, not that we wouldn't help them with that, but we really want to be able to acknowledge it before it comes on board. And I'm just talking about when we offer somebody a position, not everybody that's testing. So if we go to offer somebody a position, they should have this test. Actually, I took one in 2006 of the Charleston Fire Department. You know, they're very long and tedious, but
So this would be moving forward.
yes.
You would be
The police department requires it, and I think we should too, for any new hiring.
I think it's a good idea.
And it's been recommended by our Fire Civil Service Commission that we do this at their last meeting. So you've heard Mr. Kimball. Do you want to say anything else about that, Tom?
No, just, this would apply to both civil service hires and also part-time hires in the event that we make any of the previous adoption.
Certainly. Is there any discussion on this before we entertain a motion? I'd entertain a motion that we approve psychological testing as part of the hiring process for probationary firefighters.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mrs. Albaugh, a second by Mrs. Bucklew. Is there discussion on the motion?
Only thing I want to say is I'm glad we're going to do this because in the last 2 or 3 years, we've interviewed some people and red flags went up with me. And it's needed.
Well, it's,
Well, it's only after you hire them, you can test them, correct? It's not part of the
Yeah, it's kind of like,
application process.
you know, when they're hired, they also have to take a medical exam before
Right.
they can start, so they would also have to
before
take
they
a
start, they'll
psychological
be
exam.
subjected to the psychological.
Yep.
Other questions, discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign, motion carries. Takes us down to comments and announcements. And Mrs. Albaugh, we'll start with this.
I also want to thank all our employees. I wish we could have all been there at the picnic, but it was really good. And the food was delicious. We had chicken for 2 days. And,
Good stuff. Some ribs too.
Yeah. And I also felt really awkward in the beginning when the lady that was here talking about the issue, about the drug issue over there. And I hope that we can get a handle on that, David, because what I heard today, Mayor, because today it was a little frightening.
Yeah, I get it.
And I would hate for my granddaughter to be able to not be able to walk down the street.
I think we all get it.
Okay.
What else, Mary?
Thanks to all of our employees, every one of them.
We wouldn't be doing much without
We
them.
wouldn't do much without them. And our volunteers.
Yep. Pam?
Just want to thank Create Buckhannon for putting another great season for, for the Festival Fridays. Got a lot of good compliments and I think it's growing every year. And I love the fact that they added the chicken and the ribs this year.
Yep, good stuff.
Next year, corn on the cob maybe.
Are you cooking?
It's always more, it's never less.
French fries.
French fries.
Gravy.
Oh, great.
And also, I'm glad that we put the four-way stop down on Florida Street. I've had lots of compliments for doing that. I've only had one negative on that. I think it was a good idea. And also, I need some volunteers if anybody wants to help with any of the downtown decorating for the fall and Christmas and all that kind of stuff. So I'll be starting to have meetings on Monday evening, probably a week from this Monday, because I've got other.
Can I remind people too of one thing?
Sure.
September the 11th is Patriots Day. Mayor will be reading the proclamation on the front steps. Amby had already said this, but I want to repeat it. I'm hoping any veterans in the community, retirees, you don't have to be a veteran, but just come out and only request one thing. Bring a flag. If you don't have a flag, I'll have a handheld for you if you come. So thank you. And it said 11:15, right? I wrote it down.
We invite the county commissioners down and
Yeah.
Matt's guys and JB's folks.
Right.
It's as much, well, it's Patriots Day. And
It's Patriots Day.
It's all about what happened 18 years ago and being vigilant and mindful.
We had a parade way back, a walking trail parade. It was great.
Thanks, man. Anything else, Pam? I had more than one person complain about the four-way stop at Florida
I was
Street.
gonna say, can we run in her circles? 'Cause-
I've only heard one.
There was one fella in a pickup truck, I'll just tell this short story. He was rounding the corner after he didn't stop at this stop sign. And he said, "There's that mayor dummy." And I just raised my head, "Thank you." Because CJ always says when those things happen, you say, "Yes,
Thank
sir,
you. May I
thank
have
you, may I
another?"
have another?" Yeah. Mr. Rylands, that leads right into you. Good segue.
Yeah, I don't have anything really.
Nothing this evening. How are those grandbabies done?
They're grown up.
Yeah?
Almost 10 pounds.
Yeah? They'll be going to college before you know it. Mr. Skinner.
Well, I'll apologize to all of our employees that I wasn't at the picnic on Thursday last week. I was at a conference out of town Wednesday through Friday.
He was at the Greenbrier, for crying out
Poor
loud.
thing.
Jeez,
At a conference
poor
out of
thing.
town. Tammy and I were at a conference out of town.
Wow, this story is getting better all the time.
Tom O'Neill goes to that as well sometimes.
He was at the picnic.
Curtis Wilkerson was there too. Buckhannon was very well represented at the West Virginia Chamber of Commerce's annual business summit last week. A lot of business leaders get together and work on trying to focus on West Virginia's growing issues. We're a small state with big problems, but we have a lot of people dedicated working to try to fix those problems. And coming up on an election year, so that always makes it more interesting. There was some polling data released, so if you haven't had a chance, check it out on Metro News. But I do apologize that I wasn't here. It looked like a good time. Pictures on Facebook, but yeah, I hate to miss those kind of things, but you know, busy schedules, those things sometimes fall through the cracks. But that's all I've got. And I do thank all of our employees for everything they do. As you said, we couldn't do much without them. So,
Sure. Mr. Sanders.
It was a great gathering for the employee picnic. It really was. And it was great to see some of the folks that keep the city running and meet their family members. That was a treat to get meet the spouses and the kids and see the camaraderie. And JB could have. Did you go out for any pro ball at any point, or did you play college? Any pro football or golfers? Yeah.
All-state baseball player.
There you go. He was handling that football well. So. But everybody that pitched in and made it happen, and the food, which is one of the things that I greatly enjoy at any function. You know?
We didn't know that.
No, you couldn't tell that by looking at me. It was a great time. But anyway, it was good, and everything else is going great. So,
I think so.
yeah.
Thanks, Randy. Just a couple of things, and they're reiterative of what others have already observed. This Saturday, there's some terrific activities. From noon to midnight is the Traders Alley Block Party. They're bringing in several regional bands, there'll be local bands, so Traders Alley should be rocking all day. There'll be some food vendors. They have their ABC license for their parking lot, so if you want to have a beer, come on down. And I think it'll be a lot of fun, and it'll help set the table for some of those things that we're going to do in the theater, the Colonial Theater, which if you haven't stuck your head in the door recently, you got to do that. The HVAC system is pretty well installed. It's not quite ready to turn on yet, but it's been installed. The sprinkler system has been completed. The drywalling and mudding up of the sheetrock in the main auditorium area, theater area, has been completed. And at the end of September 27th, which is a Friday, we'll have another fundraiser for the theater, which is our annual Fall Fest Battle of the Bands. And then October 24th through the 27th is Buckhannon Community Theater's performance of Dracula. And even if you don't like vampires, you can come out and see me playing the role of a mental asylum patient, which is worth its.
He's got a great agent.
Yeah.
Mine's those natural roles.
Yeah. Drunken Santa.
I might have to get somebody to work for me so I can see that.
Anyway, I've been given my directions that I have to develop some sort of mental disorder with a tic, so I'm going to be practicing.
You want to handle that?
Thanks, Don. Patriots Day, again, Mary, thanks for reminding us. Next Wednesday at 11:15, right out front here at City Hall. Please come be a part of that ceremony as we remember 9/11. That's all I have. I would remind council that our next regular meeting is 2 weeks from tonight, September 19th. I'd entertain a motion that we adjourn. I have a motion by Skinner, a second by Rylands. Discussion on the motion. No. Call for the question. All those in favor, adjourn, signify by saying aye. We're out of here. Thank you all. Thank everybody for coming.